Hi guys, and welcome back to another championship prediction video. We're now going into round 5. The season seems to be picking up quite quickly, but I'm quite sad because I lost two things last week, and it was my Millwall 100% record. I predicted them incorrectly for the first time this season, and I didn't get 2 scores right as a minimum. I only got 1, and it was West Brom beating Blackburn 2-1. We're hoping to improve this week, so let's get into my predictions. There's 2 early games this week, and let's start off with Cardiff versus Bristol City. Now, Bristol City, they haven't started well at all. They've scored in 3 of their 4 games, but they've only managed to pick up 1 win. They did get that win the other week against Reading, it was a good win. It was quite surprising, but then they went back to losing against Swansea in a 1-0 loss last week, which wasn't great. Cardiff, they are unbeaten so far, and if Aidan Flint keeps scoring at the rate he is, I wouldn't be surprised if he's top scorer by the end of the championship. That'd be pretty crazy having a centre back at top scorer, but he can't stop scoring, and every time he scores 1 he gets 2, so I'd like to see that continue. It'd be quite funny. With this game, Cardiff, I don't think their unbeaten run's going to stop here, and I think they're going to win. I think this is going to be a 2-1 to Cardiff. Into the second early kick-off, and it's a local derby, which is making me think it's going to be quite tightly contested. It's between Derby and Nottingham Forest. Now Derby, they've started the season a lot better than I would have expected. They've got 5 points out of the first 4 games, which is a very good start considering how much pressure Wayne Rooney's under in that job, with mainly off the field issues, but they don't have many players, so fair play to Wayne Rooney, and it'll be good to see him sort of continue that, because if he was to survive this season, it would be a miracle. On the other hand, Nottingham Forest, I think a lot of people were expecting them to push on after last season, and they've went completely the opposite way. They've lost all of their games. They're the only team to have no points so far. And Chris Hughton, he has to be careful, because if he loses this game, I think it might go to a point of no return where the fans will be against him for losing to local rivals, and I think he'll really struggle to get back on board with the fans and ultimately keep his job. Now this one, as I said, I can see it being quite tightly contested as it is a local derby, and that's making me think this is going to end 1-1. On to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, and starting with Barnsley versus Blues. And I've just got to say, I am so impressed with Blues. Last week, they beat Luton 5-0 away. Brilliant performance, brilliant result. And away from home, we do look quite strong, which is making me have to back Blues again. I can't go against them. We've scored 6 goals away in 2 games, kept 2 clean sheets. We're looking pretty good away, and I just wish we could get that form at home, because we haven't won a game yet at home. However, Barnsley, they've started the season okay. They were good last week. It was a game of 2 halves in a 2-2 draw with QPR. They were very good in the first half, but QPR got back into it in the second half. And I think they're still settling into Marcus Schott's tactics. I think it might take a little bit of time, and especially after losing Valerian Ismail, I can't see them being like that again. Now Barnsley, like Bournemouth, do tend to be, as far as I'm aware, Blues' sort of bogey team. I never look forward to playing Barnsley or Bournemouth, but I'm thinking this time we can win this game. So I'm going to go Blues to win 2-0. On to a game I'm really looking forward to, which is between 2 teams that are both on 10 points. It's both on basically joint top of the table, just goal difference separating them. And it's Fulham versus Stoke. Now Stoke, they were my sort of surprise pick for a playoff position at the start of the season, and they've started very well. So you never know, maybe they will be there at the end of the season. Fulham, you'd expect them to be up there. They've got one of the strongest squads, if not the strongest squad in the Championship. So I couldn't really ever see them being anywhere outside the top 6, but I think they will finish in the top 2. This game, I think there's going to be goals. I think all of Fulham's games, they had a 5-1 win against Huddersfield. There's goals in this team, and it seems like they're not great defensively either. So with Stoke being so good attackingly, I can see this ending a 2-2 draw. Moving on to Huddersfield versus Reading. And Huddersfield have surprised me so far this season. I thought they'd be right down there, but they've started very strongly with 7 points out of the first 4 games. And I am quite surprised by it, but fair play to them. They seem to be doing well. I know Josh Koroma has been playing, which is very vital for them. I think if they lost him to injury again, they really would struggle. But they've started well, and let's see if it continues, really. Reading, they are full of goals at either end, all their games are. Both teams have scored in all 4 of their games so far, but they've ended up losing 3 of them, which is not great at all. And I can see both teams scoring again in this game, but I can't really call it. So I'm going to go straight down the middle with a 1-1 draw. On to Hull versus Bournemouth, and I want to really focus on Hull for this game, because since that 4-1 win over Preston on the opening day, they haven't picked up any points and they haven't scored any goals. So they've really dropped off. I was thinking, yeah, they'll be fine at the start of the season after that first performance, but they can't pick anything up from anywhere and they're really struggling. And I think it's a bit unfortunate that they've got Bournemouth next, because Bournemouth are unbeaten. Solanke is scoring goals at the moment, and I just can't see them getting anything against Bournemouth here. I'm going to go Bournemouth to win 2-0. On to the next game, and it's Luton versus Sheffield United. And Sheffield United, they've got 1 goal and 1 point from their first 4 games. They have really not settled back into life in the Championship. But I think it will get better, but not yet. I think it's going to take a lot of time. As I said at the start of the season, Djukanovic is a bit of a slow burner. He takes a bit of time to adjust, and that's exactly what's happening here. Luton just came off the back of that 5-0 loss to Blues at their own ground, which obviously is a terrible result, but I think they will get back in form. I think that was just a bit of a blip, and might be a bit of a surprise, but I can actually see Luton winning here 1-0. Moving on to Middlesbrough versus Blackburn, and Blackburn, all of their games so far this season have finished either 1-1 or 2-1 either way. The last game being a 2-1 loss to West Brom, but I don't think that's anything to worry about because I think West Brom will be beating the majority of teams this season. Middlesbrough, they haven't started the season how they would have wanted to at all. They just came off the back of a 0-0 draw with Derby, which was a very poor result. But for this one, I don't know, I feel like every week I say similar things about Middlesbrough, but I just believe Neil Warnock can grind out results and get draws, which is why I think Blackburn are going to carry on in the pattern that they're going with their scores, and this is going to be a 1-1 draw. Onto a game that's between 2 teams that haven't won a game yet this season. It's Millwall versus Blackpool. And now, Millwall, they have had a bit of a difficult start. I've looked at their fixtures, hasn't looked like the easiest start. I think this is the first game they're playing against someone who probably will be in and around the relegation zone this season. So they will be hoping to sort of kickstart their season from this game. Blackpool, they were brilliant last week. Came back 2-0 down against Bournemouth. Brought it back to 2-2 in the space of 2 or 3 minutes. And it was a very good result for Blackpool. It could be a very important one at the end of the season. With this, I think someone is going to get their first win. And I'm backing Millwall to get it. I think it's going to end 2-0. Moving on from 2 teams that are yet to get their first win this season to 2 teams that both got their first win this season. Last week, it's Preston, who beat Peterborough 1-0, versus Swansea, who beat Bristol City 1-0. Now, with this game, they both picked up their wins 1-0 last week. They'll both be hoping it'll kickstart them, but there's just a thing about Preston for me, and I don't know why, but I don't really think they're really capable of much at the moment. I think if they're playing a team that's quite low down, expected to finish near the relegation zone, they've got a chance. But I can't see them getting any points against anyone that's going to finish around 15th or higher, which is really worrying because you need to pick up these odd results against decent teams here and there. That's why I'm going to go in favour of Swansea, and I'm going to go for Swansea to win again 1-0. The next game is QPR versus Coventry, and Coventry have started brilliantly this season. They've won 3, lost 1 out of their 4, so they're sitting on 9 points, in a much better position than I would have expected them to be this early on, and they've seemed to really carry on the form that they had at the back end of last season. QPR, they're on 8 points, they're unbeaten, and I just think they've got too much quality. I think they are going to finish in the playoffs at the end of the season, and yeah, I think they've just got a bit too much quality for this Coventry side, and it'll be a difficult game for Coventry. So I'm predicting QPR to win 2-1. On to the last championship game, and it's the late kick-off on Saturday between Peterborough and West Brom. Now, a lot of people will look at this and just think West Brom easily. I've sort of done the same thing, but there is an interesting stat about Peterborough. I know it's only 2 games in, but they are currently unbeaten at home, and they've scored 2 goals in each of their home games so far. So they may be a side that are very strong at home this season, but just not very good on the road. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens with Peterborough's home form and if they can really maintain it. But that could be a reason to maybe back a draw or Peterborough. But I think West Brom, they're strong wherever they go, and they will have way too much quality here, as I think they're winning the league and they're going to bounce straight back up. But they've got too much quality for this Peterborough side. So, although I could see maybe Peterborough shocking people and getting something out of it, I think for me, personally, I just have to go for West Brom. And I'm going for West Brom to win 3-1. Those are my predictions for this week's Championship fixtures. It's the 5th round, and I'm hoping that I can pick up at least 2 correct scores and get back into the form I sort of set myself and my target. Please let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with. Please put all your predictions down in the comments. Like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Premier League and Championship content. Hope you enjoy this weekend's fixtures, and up the Blues.